Geneva time, couple of minutes. And before we officially start, let me go through a few housekeeping notes. We encourage you to type your questions and comments on the chat panel and send it to everyone. And if time allows, and if the moderator opens the floor, and if you want to take the floor, please click the raised hand icon that appears next to your name on the participants panel. You can also see it at the bottom of your screen. And the moderator will call your names by the order of raised hands and allow you to unmute. And when you are named, please unmute yourself and speak. And when your speaking is over, kindly mute yourself and click the lower hand icon. And if you need any kind of technical assistance, please feel free to send a message to the host. And kindly note that the session is being recorded, will be recorded soon. And after the session, kindly fill out the survey so that we can improve our service to you. Thank you very much.
Good day and good evening to all our participants here today. And while people continue to join, I want to welcome all of you here today to this session of Minamata Online. This session is on support to parties through the Minamata Convention financial mechanism. And it is part of our 2024 season of Minamata Online, which has the aim of getting as much information out to our parties and our stakeholders and anyone else who's interested in joining the quest to combat mercury pollution globally, to get as much information out to you as possible. And these sessions can always be found after the session is over, both in recording and presentation format on our website. So we're very happy that you were able to join us today. I will get us started. My name is Marianne Bailey. I'm the Senior Coordination Officer at the Minamata Convention Secretariat. And we will be joined today by a few other colleagues. One is my colleague, Maria Irene Rizzo, the Associate Officer here in the Secretariat, who's responsible for the specific international program. And also I'm happy that we're joined by Anil Sukhdeo, the Senior Environmental Specialist at the Global Environment Facility, who manages the chemicals and waste focal area. Kevin Helps, who here in UNEP, who is the portfolio manager for chemicals and waste at the United Nations Environment Program. And then finally, towards the end of our program, we'll be joined by Talita De Mello from the UN Systems Staff College to talk about a new training platform. So with that, if I could have the first slide and give you a very quick introduction to the Minamata Convention financial mechanism. It is mandated by Article 13 of the convention. And it has a very important role in addressing all the control measures that you see on this slide. The Minamata Convention has a very broad scope, even though it addresses one particular pollutant. It does so across many, many sectors, from resource extraction all the way to waste management and site management, and in many sectors of everyday use and impact. But the supportive articles of the convention are instrumental in ensuring that parties can effectively implement the convention. And one of those is, of course, the Article 13 on financial resources and mechanism. Paragraph 1 of that article talks about how each party is to undertake to provide within its capabilities resources to at the national level to implement the convention in accordance with national policies and priorities and plans and programs. And this would include domestic funding, development strategies, national budgets, and bilateral and multilateral funding and private sector involvement. But then further into Article 13, paragraph 5 defines its financial mechanism. And that is a mechanism for the provision of adequate, predictable, and timely financial resources. And that includes the Global Environment Facility and what is now known as the Specific International Program, or the SIP. So we're going to talk about both of those today, as well as some related sources of support that parties and stakeholders may be interested in. So in this session, again, we'll cover the GEF part, the SIP part, and a recent decision at UNEA 6, which talked about coordination among various UNEP funds, and then new training platforms. So going right into the Global Environment Facility, our parties were very pleased during the GEF 8 replenishment discussions and in their finalization of the GEF 8 program, to have a very healthy allocation for mercury. And you can see it there on the slide. It went up to $269 million. So our parties talked about this at our last COP, and they were very appreciative of the donor support given to chemicals and waste, and specifically to the Minamata Convention through the Global Environment Facility Trust Fund. But also it's important to note that the GEF 8 period is time bound, and we are already approaching, it's actually just under 2 months before the halfway point of GEF 8 hits us. So GEF 8 is, all the GEF replenishment periods are 4 years. So we're about halfway through the GEF 8 period. So the GEF 8 architecture is a combination of work through focal areas and work through integrated programs. And in the GEF 8 replenishment, a large number of integrated programs were developed. There's 11 of those, and they're listed here. And Anil, you can correct me if I have anything that's a bit outdated here. But I think this is approximately the current scenario, where the integrated programs are working on the topics that you see in the center. But over the top, you see the focal areas of the GEF, included, that's biodiversity, climate change, land degradation, international waters, and chemicals and waste. So where the Minamata Convention allocation sits is within the chemicals and waste focal area. In the next slide, I want to talk a little bit, and you'll learn more about this from the experts, about how those resources are programmed. So there is a programming directions document that is agreed to be used for each replenishment cycle. So the Jeff 8 programming directions document defines the chemicals and waste focal area strategy. And it has these three objectives under which the Minamata Convention activities would take place. And how do these take place? Well, the Jeff, as most of you know, works through Jeff agencies. And there are 18 Jeff agencies. They are listed here with their acronyms. Some of these agencies have been very, very active in Mercury along the way ever since Jeff 5, really, when some enabling activities were started. And what do these projects work towards? There is a core indicator that under which the Mercury work takes place, or towards which I should say, and that is the indicator chemicals of global concern and their waste reduced in thousands of metric tons. And then moving quickly on to the next slide. So as I said, the Jeff 8 period is nearly halfway finished. And the chemical and waste focal area, the overall funding in Jeff 8 for chemicals and waste is approximately $800 million. And of that, as I said earlier, the Mercury allocation is $269 million. So within that, within that overall funding envelope of about $800 million, as of the February Jeff Council meeting, 171 million had been programmed. And this will, of course, go up significantly in the next work program, which will be discussed at the June Jeff Council meeting. But please note that this includes funding not only for Mercury, but for POPs, so the Stockholm Convention, and for SAICM. So the Mercury figure that's been allocated to date is significantly lower than the figure you see here. And it's really somewhere just over $20 million. There is a significant amount of funding that will need to be programmed and programmed effectively before the end of the Jeff 8 period. So that's 2026. Jeff 9 period starts in July of 2026. So it's really important that parties and their relevant stakeholders work at the national level to really conceive of, figure out their needs, think of good projects, and work with Jeff agencies to develop strong project proposals, but also work closely at the national level with the Jeff operational and political focal points, because they're the ones through whom these proposals are then presented to the Jeff Secretariat through the operational and political focal points, working with the Jeff agencies to get these proposals moving forward. So it's very important to make full use of this allocation, not wait till the last minute and have a bunch of rushed projects that may not be well thought through. And so to get this work moving now. And also to optimize projects so that they maximize the interlinkages with biodiversity, climate change, land degradation, maybe also international waters, and the suite of integrated programs that I mentioned before. Because that's really the vision and the architecture of Jeff 8, which is to really maximize the benefits and the outcomes of projects by taking advantage and recognizing these interlinkages. And all this was discussed again by our parties and set forth in the decision on the review of the financial mechanism that was taken at COP5 in Decision 5/11. I think, yeah, I just want to say one more thing before I turn to Anil. And so this is just an example, but I wanted to show how the Jeff Minamata Convention projects have enabled parties to progress through an enabling activity all the way to large projects. This particular example is on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Parties who notify that ASGM is more than insignificant in their territories using mercury can then have to develop a national action plan. And for that, they can apply for Jeff enabling activity support, and many of them have. You can see that there are almost as many NAP projects as notifications, and this is a really good thing. And the submissions of final national action plans are also proceeding apace. There's a very few that are late per the deadline set forth in the convention. And most parties have really dug into this work and done a great job in developing their national action plans. The plans also need to be implemented, and the Global Environment Facility developed a large program called Planet Gold, and there's 23 Planet Gold projects to date, and moving forward, parties could get project support for implementing their ASGM national action plans through single country Planet Gold projects, or even potentially other types of ASGM projects. And then finally on ASGM, what parties that have these plans need to do is submit reviews of them, undertake a review every 3 years and submit the review to us with their national reporting. So there's envisioned some enabling activity support. This is still in process, but we hope it will be available in the near future to support parties in undertaking these reviews. And then finally, there would be, so that's just ASGM. There's also Minamata initial assessment enabling activities, and there's reduction projects across all the sectors of control obligations that I mentioned in the introduction. So with that, oh, one more point, sorry, I'm turning on too long, but so since the Jeff 9 replenishment period is coming up very soon in just over 2 years, the discussions about that will start taking place early next year, I think. And so it will be important that the projects that our parties are undertaking in Jeff 8 with this wonderful allocation of funding support really show results, and they show that parties are serious about undertaking their obligations under the convention, and parties really will need to show a clear vision for what they need to achieve and want to get from the Jeff 9 replenishment period, which will run from 2026 to 2030. So with that, I would like to invite Anil to say a few words.
Hi, thank you, Marion, and thanks to the Secretariat for the invitation today, and good day, colleagues online. At the risk of repeating most of what Marion just said, and thanks, that was a really good presentation overview of the Jeff work. I'll just probably re-emphasize a couple of the points. Just to note again that Jeff 8 started in July 2022 and on June 30th, 2026, as Marian said. this June will mark the midpoint of the replenishment cycle. So we have 2 more years of programming for JEF 8. So at the start of JEF 8, the replenishment had allocated towards the Minamata Convention $269 million for implementation of the convention, of which 20 million has been allocated to enabling activities. So currently the Minamata initial assessments and the ASGM national action plans, and the remaining 249 million is allocated to the implementation of legally binding obligations of the parties. And those include and are covered under the programming directions for JEF 8 measures to reduce emissions and releases, including from cement, industrial boilers, non-ferrous metals, trade, ASGM. Also, we have industrial uses, including chlor-alkali production, vinyl chloride monomer production. And then there's projects also supported in mercury products, including cosmetics, batteries, lighting, and the ones that were also added at COP5. Also covered things like environmentally safe storage of mercury and mercury products. So far in JEF 8, we've only been able to program $35 million in projects that have been submitted, and just noting that all of the projects that have been submitted have been funded, but that leaves quite a large amount remaining to be programmed in the next 2 years, which is $233 million. We do have projects that were submitted to the work program that will come in June. So we will have projects on mercury, so that'll take care of some of those resources. But then we will only have, let's see, 4 more work programs in which to program these resources. So which is the one in December this year, 2 next year, 1 in June, 1 in December, and the final one, which is in June 2026. So there's 4 more work programs to get these resources programmed, and we really encourage parties to utilize them. On the other side of what we do at the JEF in terms of the project cycle, at the last JEF Council in February, the council approved an increase in the ceiling of our medium-sized projects, which were previously $2 million. They've now increased the ceiling up to $5 million, which actually makes it quite easy for projects that are under $5 million to come in either one step, which is a fully elaborated project proposal that will be submitted for funding, and those could be taken care of, and depending on the quality of the submission, could be taken care of in a couple of weeks, and then could be ready for implementation, or a 2-step modality where you would need some additional resources to help prepare and elaborate the project. You can do that in 2 steps. So you'd submit a PIF but not to the council. The PIF would come to the JEF CEO, and he would approve it, and then we'd release project preparation resources. Then you would have 9 months in which to prepare and resubmit the fully elaborated proposal. So that's new, and it does help speed approval of projects, because generally a significant number of projects are usually $5 million and less. So this does give a faster rate of programming. So we also hope countries that have projects will do that, and we're already seeing 2 of those come in for 2 countries who are proposing to work on ASGM. So the proposed projects that are $5 million, and those are currently in review. Coming out of the COP5, the ASGM decision 5.7, we will be submitting for approval to the council a new enabling activity, which is to review the implementation of Article 7, which will be available to parties that have submitted their first ASGM NAP to the Secretariat at least 3 years prior to requesting this new enabling activity, and consistent with the Article 7, this activity will be available in the future every 3 years from each review. So it will be available, and we'll make sure that it's programmed into the resources for JEF 9. In terms of JEF agencies, there are several that are active in the portfolio, so you're not limited to agencies. We have 18 Jeff agencies, and I encourage you to reach out to them as soon as possible to discuss proposals, and the ones that are most active in the Minamata and the chemicals and waste portfolio more broadly, UNDP, UNEP, UNIDO, FAO, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the African Development Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the West African Development Bank. Also, we have DBSA, which is the South African Development Bank, which recently the Council expanded its mandate from being a national entity, so only serving South Africa, to being a regional entity. So the South African Development Bank now has the ability to work throughout continental Africa. So they also are available to the 55 countries in Africa, as well alongside the African Development Bank and the West African Development Bank. We have some other agencies that are less active in the portfolio. We have Conservation International, which is an agency involved in Planet Gold work, but we also have the WWF, we have IUCN, we have FECO, which is in China, CAF, which is the Central American Development Bank, FUNBIO, which is an NGO in Brazil, and IFAD, which is the Food and Agriculture Development Bank. So there are several agencies depending on your region. You don't have to rely solely on the UN agencies. You can go out to the regional development banks or the regional organizations within your regions to seek assistance in supporting your proposals. Finally, I would just say on the replenishment at the end of this year, the December Council will launch the JEF 9 replenishment process, which will be conducted over a series of at least 4 negotiations starting in spring of 2025 and will end in spring of 2026, with the replenishment being concluded by the end of June 2026, so we can launch the replenishment. And we hope donors will be as generous as they were in JEF 8, but that also depends on you as parties in ensuring that all these resources that have been secured for JEF 8 are spent, because the more you spend, the more resources we can request. So I'd really encourage you to program as fast as possible. And on that note, if you do have questions on your project ideas or on agencies that are available to you, please contact us at the JEF Secretariat. All of our contact details are on the JEF website, and our email addresses are there. So please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anil. This really gives participants a good inside look at how all this works in a much closer up view. So I'd like to turn now to Kevin Helps to give a glimpse of what UNEP is looking forward to doing in terms of the Minamata Convention. I did invite a few of the implementing agencies, so really glad, Kevin, that you could be with us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne, and thanks very much to Anil for the two of you to frame this conversation. I think it's very important that we understand that the scale of the portfolio, the scale of the funding that's available, and also the areas of primary interests for member states and for the Convention Secretariat to sort of see where us as technical agencies and JEF implementing agencies are able to assist countries to mobilize and access these resources in order to help them meet the obligations of the Convention. This is our role, is to facilitate access to the finance and provide the necessary technical support for you, the member states, to actually comply and meet your obligations and to basically improve the environment and transition away from the use of mercury in many of these uses. I only have one slide. This is it. We've always been very active in programming in the Minamata space as an agency. Moving back to Jeff 6 with the onset of the Planet Gold program on ASGM. And we continue, as you see from this slide, to submit new country projects in this particular space. We also work very closely with member states on the development and implementation of the national action plans and on the Minamata initial assessments. So, you know, we are very active in this space, but we are looking to accelerate and perhaps diversify our inputs and our support to countries over the remainder of Jeff 8 leading into the Jeff 9 discussions. Primarily, we want to build on some existing experience in some of the key areas, and I'll just briefly touch upon those in the next couple of minutes. One of those is the chlor-alkali sector, which you heard Anil and Marianne make reference to. You know, it is one of the sections where there is alternative technology available, and the Jeff intervention here is very specifically focused towards removing the mercury out of the supply chain from the catalysts that's used in the process, whereas we then work with banks and private sector finance to then fund the transition of the industry into a cleaner, non-mercury space. So it is a case of the Jeff financing being very much used to deal with the legacy issue, but also leverage the co-finance and the investment mobilized to allow industry to clean up and transition. So we are very keen to build on our recently approved project in Mexico, in a similar project in Brazil in the coming year. And we will also be trying to build upon our Jeff 7 projects in the areas of skin lightening products and medical devices, thermometers and blood pressure devices, as well as dental amalgam. And we've had advanced discussions with WHO in the Africa region to accelerate our work, and we will be reaching out to member states in the coming months to identify countries and partners that want to work with us in these particular areas and base that on our headquarters experience with WHO in these key aspects of skin lightening products, medical devices, and dental amalgam. So we're trying to magnify, to accelerate, to build on our core sort of normative work that we're doing with WHO headquarters, primarily focusing on the Africa region at this stage, but we are open to countries requesting assistance to work on these issues from other regions. You know, this is just a list of the initiatives and the concepts which we are developing on, but also where we've had more advanced conversations. It is not a closed list. We look forward to working with more countries across more regions if these areas, if these problems are of interest to you. You'll also note that we have a non-ferrous metal value chain project in there. And this is still very embryonic in its nature. We have had a lot of upstream discussions with colleagues from the Minamata Secretariat on how far this project should go and what it should focus on. We're not yet in the stage of identifying countries which we would look to work with. So again, if this is something of interest to you as a member state, please do reach out to us and we would be happy to consider how we can work with you. We are also looking a little wider in terms of areas such as trade in mercury, certainly in the Latin American Caribbean region, and also on the storage and disposal of seized mercury. We have a particular interest in Brazil, again, on what do we do when we actually invoke the requirements of the law and the convention and take ownership of this problem material? What do we do next? So we're looking to work with partners in Brazil on that particular issue. We continue to work in the NAP space, we continue to work in the MIA space, and we will continue to collaborate with countries in the Planet Gold area under Article 7 when we have done an assessment of the initial batch of countries which have gone through. So we're aiming to still have more countries joining the Planet Gold family in the near to mid future. You'll see there that we have a total pipeline value of around $89.2 million. We're not really expecting all of these projects to actually come to fruition and be developed and approved within the GEF 8 cycle. But I think it should give the Secretariat, GEF Secretariat, the Minamata Secretariat, and member states some comfort that we are committed to programming in this area. And we wish to work with the secretariats and the member states to make sure that we access the finance which is available and that we develop meaningful and impactful projects which help put the convention into action on the ground. And with that, I will cease speaking and pass back to Marion. Thank you very much, Marion, for the opportunity to raise this. And I look forward to hearing from member states and countries and parties to work with us to make as many of these projects an active reality as possible in the remainder of GEF 8. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for this really rich picture of what UNEP is pulling together for this allocation of Minamata Convention funding. It's great. So I don't want to go too far over. Oh, here on your screen, you can see that we do have a dashboard. It's fairly new, and we're really happy with it, and we're really glad the GEF Secretariat also likes it. And it's a work in progress, but it tries to zone in on the Minamata Convention projects. It still includes projects that are co-funded with other chemicals and waste projects, like in the POPs space, but it does give you easier access to figure out exactly what the list of projects is for the Minamata Convention allocation. And we did want to have questions and answers. I can't go too far over, and I see a number of questions were answered already in the chat, at least to some degree. But if anyone has a burning question, please raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we can get to it either now or at the end of the session. But I would like to respond to one of the questions because I thought it was an interesting, seeking a little bit more insight on why at this stage of GEF 8 are we still at a rather low level of allocation of funds to specific projects. And others may want to weigh in briefly, but the suite of 11 integrated programs in GEF 8 were a priority for the first couple of GEF Council sessions that took place within GEF 8. So a lot of funding was allocated towards those integrated programs at the beginning of GEF 8. And none of that is going to the Minamata Convention, unfortunately. We were strong advocates for the integrated programs, but the way they have played out, they do not have specific mercury benefits targeted. But we now at this stage need to move beyond that stage of programming and make sure, as Anil and Kevin have said, that there are strong portfolios of mercury projects going forward for the remainder of GEF 8. And the increase to $5 million of the medium-sized projects, as Anil said, will help speed things up, I believe. So my colleagues can tell me if we have any hands raised, but otherwise we should move right along to the specific international program segment of our session today.
Thank you so much, Marian. So good day to all of you. My name is Irena Ritz and I'm the associate expert at the Secretariat, working mainly on the specific international program on the SIP. And we will now go over the second part of our presentation, and there will be another Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So you're encouraged to keep placing your questions in the chat, and we will address those in writing or at the end of the session. So starting with the specific international program, this is the second component of the financial mechanism of the convention. And the big news is that the governing board of the SIP that met in mid-April decided to launch the fourth round of applications to the SIP. And the fourth round opened for submissions on Wednesday, 24th of April, 2024, just a few days ago. And the applications can be submitted to the Secretariat until Wednesday, 31st of July, 2024. These applications can be submitted for project funding between $50,000 and $250,000, and they can be submitted by governments of developing countries and countries with economies in transition that are parties to the Minamata Convention. To support the parties in the preparation and submission of these applications, we have prepared application guidelines, and these are available in English, French, and Spanish on our website, and you also have the link on the slide. And it is important to mention here that all applications must be submitted in English by the deadline that I mentioned earlier, the 31st of July 2024. And the applications must be submitted using the forms A, B, and C, which are available on the website in English. And we will organize a number of webinars very soon in late May, early June, to give more details on how to apply and prepare the applications. And the dates for those should be announced next week, hopefully. So moving on to the next slide. We would like to show you a timeline for the fourth round of applications to the SIP. So as I said, the launch was on 24th of April, and the deadline for submission of applications is on 31st of July, 2024. Then in August and September, the Secretariat will screen and review the applications that will be submitted, and will send comments and technical revisions to the applicants by the 30th of September 2024. Then applicants will have 1 month until 31st of October 2024 to review and resubmit their applications. In November and December, the Secretariat will then prepare project appraisals for the governing board of the SIP that will tentatively meet in January 2025 to consider the applications and approve the projects for funding. And the applications approved will be based on the funding that will be available at the time of the board meeting in January. After the board meeting, the Secretariat will notify the outcomes to all the applicants, and the arrangements for the projects that have been approved will start. Moving on to the next slide. We would like to show you here the contributions and pledges that we have received in the specific trust fund from 2018. 2018 is the year when the trust fund for the SIP was established, and until 29th of February 2024. So an amount of $7,828,000 has been received, and the contributions have been received from Norway, Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, the United States, Austria, France, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Denmark. Moving on. So I've just mentioned that we have launched the fourth round of applications. So now we would like to give you a bit more of a background on the SIP and on the first 3 of the applications that were launched in 2018, 2019, and 2021. So 24 projects were approved and received SIP funding in the first 3 rounds of applications. And this slide wants to show you that the SIP is supporting eligible parties in all regions, and that a number of these projects have been implemented also in least developed countries and in small island developing states. And on our website, you can find a dashboard that provides more information on the projects and the progress made in the implementation of these projects. There's a link at the bottom of this slide. And in the next slide, here is a snapshot of the SIP dashboard that I have just mentioned. And I really invite you to check this dashboard on the website and to see that you will see that it provides information also on which convention articles the SIP projects have helped implementing and the focus of the projects. In fact, you can see, for example, there's a bar chart called projects by topics on the right, where you can see the focus of each and every project and which articles have been implemented. And we at the Secretariat really hope that the applications that will be submitted for the 4th round of applications will continue to focus on the convention obligations and will take into consideration also the timelines for the implementation that are defined in the convention. In the next slide. Okay, I will provide a bit more of background of this chart that you can see on the slide. It's the theory of change of the SIP. In 2021, the governing board of the SIP directed the Secretariat to undertake a midterm evaluation of the SIP. So the Secretariat hired an external consultant, an independent consultant, who prepared a report on the midterm evaluation. And you can also find the link to this report in the chat. The Secretariat has replied to one of the questions providing the link. And this report was also provided to the COP5 last year in October, November. So the evaluator also developed a theory of change for the overall program for the SIP. And this was approved for use by the governing board. And in the next slide, you can find also the results framework of the SIP, which was again developed by the by the evaluator that conducted the midterm evaluation. And you can see it is composed of 1 outcome and 7 outputs with indicators about the outcome and output level. And this is also available on the website, and you have the link on the slide. And it is important with the results framework to mention that the framework could be helpful for applicants to the 4th round, but it is not the framework that will be used by the governing board to appraise project applications. Moving to the next slide, which I believe is my last slide, we would like to show you the criteria that will be used by the governing board to appraise the individual project applications that will be submitted by the deadline. And it's the same appraisal framework that will be used next January for the decision making on the 4th round of applications to the SIP. And just to mention that this criteria can be found in the application guidelines, and that SIP projects that receive funding are of course selected by the board after a very thorough technical review and appraisal process. And that these criteria have been set by the board itself. Just to mention, last thing I would like to mention on the SIP is that fundraising for the 4th round of applications will continue throughout 2024 and until the board meets to approve the projects in January 2025. So the Secretariat will continue with the fundraising efforts, and we hope that the board will be in the position to approve as many worthy applications as possible next year in January. I believe this is my last slide, and I will hand over to Marian. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. We are so pleased that the 4th round of applications has launched. It was a huge, heavy lift on the part of the Secretariat to pull all the launch and application materials together following our governing board meeting, but we're really pleased it happened. I'm going to go super quickly through the next 2 slides because one thing of note is that the SIP fourth round was launched concurrently with the special programs new round of applications as well. And we're supporting one another, our secretariat and the special program secretariat, to ensure that applicants get good information about both launches and how to apply. And this is consistent with and supportive of this recent UNEA decision, which was just taken recently. It was the decision on sound management of chemicals and waste, but sorry, not decision, resolution, let me be accurate. But paragraph 5 of that resolution calls upon the various funds that are managed by UNEP for chemicals and waste. So the SIP, the special program, as well as the new Global Framework on Chemicals Fund, to coordinate and ensure that there's not duplication of efforts and that we're complementary. And I do want to assure participants that we, in managing the SIP, we already do this very closely with the special program. We sit on one another's task forces to review project proposals. We go to one another's board meetings sometimes and application webinars. So I think in the future you can expect the same with the new Global Framework on Chemicals Fund. And there was a joint information session that we were asked to present at in early April to the respective boards of those two programs. So that was well received. And in the next slide, this was a slide that we showed to them. This is kind of how we envision portraying to prospective applicants which fund is the fund that I should apply to, because they are unique to themselves. They each have a different role in the suite of addressing needs that parties, or in the case of the special program, non-parties also would have to move forward with implementation of the convention. So we hope that this slide brings some clarity to prospective applicants in deciding which fund best meets their needs. So with that, I would like to move on to our final topic. And this is, we're really happy that in recent years and months, but very recently, we've been able to work with partners to develop and launch some new training platforms that they're still in process to some degree, but we're going to tell you about 3 of those today. And the first one was developed with the support of the European Union as part of their work with us to support capacity building and technical assistance. So I would like to turn to Talita De Mello. Talita, if you're online, we'd love for you to show us the launch of Minamata Tools, which is about to happen.
Thank you, Marianne. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. As she just said, I'm Talita. I work for the UN System Staff College, and we are extremely happy and proud to have been a part of this unique capacity development effort. We are very happy with the final outcome, and we would like to invite all of you to join this learning path. So the Minamata Tools Learning Path was developed having in mind especially national focal points, but also all those somehow involved in the process, in the reporting process for the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The idea is that we have some learning modules targeted at special articles, selected articles, and we also have some content on the reporting itself. The idea is that you have some information there based, of course, on all the guidance and materials provided by the Minamata Convention Secretariat, and that you can plan and prepare to the reporting process. I don't know if I can share my screen, Marianne, to show the platform.
Yes, you should be enabled to share your screen. Thanks.
Okay. Good. So this is the first time we are presenting the platform. Again, we are so happy. The idea is that Minamata Tools, as I mentioned, is an online learning path, meaning that once you register, you get automatic access to the content. And what we have here is basically 5 modules, actually 4, the 5th one is coming soon, about selected articles from the Minamata Convention. Module 1 will give you a brief introduction to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Module 2 will cover Article 3, Mercury Sources, Supply and Trade. Module 3 will cover Article 8 on mercury emissions. Module 4 will cover mercury added products and manufacturing processes, which basically addresses Article 4 and 5. And Module 5 that is about to come will address the full national reporting process. We have developed some really engaging and interesting content for you. So for each module, you have a SCORM package. In this package, you get to see different interactions and you have access to a lot of different content, again, based on the guidance provided by the Minamata Convention Secretariat. And the idea, the main goal was, of course, to make sure that this is used as a tool to help you plan and to help you prepare for the national reporting process. We would like to invite you then to register. We have here, I don't know, Marianne, if you have the link to share with participants. But this is our QR code. If you scan, you're going to be directed to our website. This is a free offering, as Marianne mentioned, funded by the European Union. Therefore, all you have to do is go to the website, register, and you'll get access to the course. For each module, you're going to get a certificate, and the idea is, of course, we encourage everyone to take all the modules, but the idea is you get to pick the ones that really interest you the most and the ones that are relevant to your activities and to your work. So it's really flexible, it's interactive, and again, it was really made and designed to make sure that this reporting process goes as smooth as possible. Yeah, so I think this is it, Marianne. I don't know if you want to highlight some specific information, but I would just like to thank on behalf of the United Nations System Staff College. It was really a learning journey for us as well, and we are very proud of this final outcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Talita, and we'll try to get all that information into the chat or otherwise share with participants. So yes, we encourage people to register. You can already register now, even though next week will be the date of the platform going live. We do have a really good question in the chat is, are these tools available in French? And we have also had that on our mind. We're not quite there yet. We have used some different funding to translate some of the modules into French and Spanish, and that work is in process. But it's to be determined whether we can raise more funding to fully implement language versions on this particular platform, or otherwise we'll eventually be able to make those the texts, I would say, available in languages in the near future, and we will keep you posted. And maybe the next slide that I have will help clarify that. If we could just move on and this is actually our last slide, 2 other capacity building and training materials that are in process. Actually, the set you see on the left-hand side of the slide, the training materials on mercury added products are already available, and then in languages will be available soon. And this is being spearheaded by my colleague Izaku Toda, also with the support of the European Union. This set of training materials on mercury added products and their alternatives, as well as checklists for implementing phase out and phase down measures, and a lot of other useful materials. So we're very happy with that, and we see that as a strong complement also to the module on mercury added products and industrial processes using mercury. That is one of the Minamata tools module. And then also for a very much more specific audience, we are working with the World Customs Organization, and they have a platform called Click, and this is specifically designed for customs officers to get the information they need about products and things in trade that they need to take action on. And so, of course, mercury is one of those. Mercury added products and mercury waste are all part of that picture in terms of the Minamata Convention. So we are in the process of working with outside experts to develop a Click module through the World Customs Organization. So this, we're 2 minutes before the end of our time, but hopefully we've given you a good glimpse of the range of support, and it's certainly not comprehensive, but these are the main things we wanted to talk to you about. And we have also the Minamata Online series, of which this is one, but even the previous seasons of Minamata Online, all those presentations are available on our website. Some of them provide very basic information about what a particular article of the convention requires, and how it is to be implemented, and others provide more information, more detailed information, such as topics talking about mercury science, and also topics talking about intersessional processes or other COP-related topics for us. So we encourage you to access those recordings and presentations. And I think I'm just going to very quickly check the chat and see if we have any questions. Oh, there is a question in the chat. What are countries mostly interested in terms of addressing, in terms of sources of mercury and their key needs? That's a very hard thing to summarize, especially since we're out of time. But a very good source of information is something that we haven't mentioned in this hour, is national reporting. So our parties have already submitted 2 rounds of short national reports. Those are 4 very targeted questions. And then 1 round of full national reports, which is the 4 questions plus a lot of others. So there's really detailed information per party available through the national reporting. And it's a lot of material to weed through, but it's all available on our website. And the dashboard for national reporting, I see it's already been linked in the chat here, is our way of trying to kind of consolidate some of that information and give it to you in a more visual format. So we hope that, especially over time, as the newest short national report information gets consolidated, that will give you a good picture of party needs. We also get a lot of information on party needs through their applications to the SIP. So we will look at those closely when they come in, during and after their due date at the end of July. So with that, I think we can close. And I'm sorry that you had to hear my voice for such a long time, especially since we had such great speakers joining us. But I hope this has given you a snapshot of information on the financial mechanism and also the imperative that parties remain really active in expressing their needs through these project proposals. So thank you all, and don't forget that you can access these slides and the recording on our website within the next 48 hours or so. Thank you all, and have a good rest of day or evening. Bye-bye.